EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Technique. It's sometimes called acupuncture without the needles, sometimes called tapping because we literally tap on the ends of those acupoint meridian lines. Each one relates to a different part of your body. Each one has a different emotion attached. Neurology, epigenetics, quantum physics. It lends itself perfectly to those as well. It's being called a cutting edge technique. If we're talking about the self-help tools, it's my aim, if a client comes to see me, it's my aim by the end of that first session that they have a solid self-help tool to take away. So it's their go-to thing for when they're feeling a little bit low, when something's upset them. Although it's called emotional freedom technique, it's actually can work really, really well for physical things as well. Freedom from whatever is holding them back from getting what they deserve out of life and being their best selves. All the answers are inside us. As we say sometimes, the body's talking. Are we listening?
Why did you start in 2003? What happened in your life to bring you to EFT?
Well,
welcome to The Wellness Way with me, Philly J. Lay, a layperson's guide to your natural health systems, your very own NHS.
Hello, lovely people, and welcome to another episode of The Wellness Way. And if I'm looking very bubbly and radiant today, it's because I have a dear friend of mine here today, an EFT tapper extraordinaire, also the founder of a phenomenal charity called FAST, which we will get to later. But can I introduce to you the beautiful Wendy Power Stoton? Hello, Wendy. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. And it's a real pleasure and ever so exciting to be here. So thank you.
You've driven all the way from Cornwall this morning.
I have this morning. Dodged all those puddles on the way up. Had quite a journey and delighted to be here.
Okay, we're going to cut straight into EFT. It's something everybody should have in their toolkit. What is it?
Well, EFT, as you say, it's a wonderful thing to have in anyone's toolkit. It's something that can be used as a self-help tool. Very easy to learn, very quick to learn, very simple. It's part of the field of energy psychology, in fact, which you might well know that Einstein predicted would be the medicine of the future.
He did
so
indeed.
It's one of them. And EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Technique. It's clinical based technique, and it's sometimes called acupuncture without the needles. It's which proves that it has its kind of like blend of East meets West. The Easty part is that it comes from the ancient Eastern roots of energy medicine, of which acupuncture is one, and sometimes called tapping because we literally tap on the ends of those acupoint meridian lines.
All these wonderful meridians that run throughout your body.
Absolutely. Each one relates to a different part of your body. Each one has a different emotion attached. And it works just, as you say, it just flows, removing the blocks that are getting in the way. But the great thing about it is that we also have the West, and it fits perfectly, seamlessly as a tool to complement all of these wonderful new findings that are coming out with neurology, epigenetics, quantum physics. It lends itself perfectly to those as well. So whereas I started tapping around 2003, in fact, I know exactly when I started tapping.
Everyone does.
2003. And at that time, it was considered weird, but undeniably worked. And now, all these years later, it's being called a cutting edge technique. So that's how much we've learnt and grown.
It's quite extraordinary. Everybody does know when they came to tapping. I've spoken many times about my first experience with it, so I'm not going to take the audience time. Why did you start in 2003? What happened in your life to bring you to EFT?
Well, I know exactly when it was. It was May 2003, and I was sitting on a beach in Sennen in Cornwall, beautiful beach. And before that time, I had actually been working in corporate, business, language and skills company with 40 schools around the world, which was ample number of countries for me to fulfill my passion and desire for living and working in different countries, learning, expanding, evolving with different cultures. And I absolutely had a wonderful career, but it didn't really go very well with becoming a new mother. Having to travel, leave home all the time.
Yeah.
So there I was, sitting on this beach with my new baby, with a friend who had come down from London to stay for a few days. And she was talking to me about this wonderful session that it had of this thing called EFT. Whereas in one session, she shifted more, just in that one session, about all the struggles she'd been going to than she had in months and months of the various other therapies that she'd tried. And you probably know when something resonates so deeply within your soul, right to the core, every fibre.
Yep.
It just resonated so much. And I just knew at that moment, I was so fascinated with everything she had to say, that I was going to be tapping at some stage. And in actual fact, interestingly, it was just one of those no-brainers. I have these no-brainers every now and then, and this was one of them, which was backed up by the fact that when I left that beach to go home, I turned on the radio. There was a little interview going on about tapping.
No.
Yeah, and 2 days later, I went to have the baby weighed in the medical centre, and there in the waiting room was a magazine, and it had an article about tapping. So that was my magic 3, and then the rest is history.
Yes. Wow, the universe is just phenomenal. Putting everything in your sight and going, this is your baby.
Yeah. Yes.
Now, I think very much people have lost their faith with the medical profession, especially over the last 5 years. And people are looking to embrace these techniques more than they have ever done so before. And it was really interesting. I don't know if you saw, actually, you might have posted it. EastEnders had it on last year. They had somebody tapping.
Yes, quite a lot of the famous, for whatever reason they're famous, actors, singers, sports people. You can spot them tapping at various times and places, before competitions, before performances. It's wonderful.
It calms you down so completely. And just, I noticed that you were tapping just before we started the interview. And
have to walk my talk, Philly. Have to walk my talk.
I'm always tapping anything that comes up in these conversations that triggers me. It's just like I've got my comfort point here, just on the collarbone. It's just like, I love. Oh, I think just doing that. It is so relaxing. It's just, it's homey.
Yes.
That's how it feels, and that's how it must have felt for you when you saw all of these signs and you just went, okay, that's homey.
Yes, absolutely.
So where did you train as an EFT practitioner?
Oh, I trained once Luke was old enough, which was a couple of years later, in fact. I went and trained in Exeter and did my first training, so 2005. And on the back of sort of my first job ever, which was when I left university and I went to work in Japan for this language company, I took on a lot of Japanese cultural things that I just thought were great, one of which was Kaizen, which means continual improvement. So I always have that in my life. It's one of my values. And so I'm continually seeking to improve on what I can offer my clients. So I've done lots of training since then, grief and loss, I've done births.
We were on the grief and loss training. You were one of my trainers with Janice Thompson.
That's right.
Got a couple of podcasts out with Janice, so please go and check them out because she's
Wonderful
also
woman.
Cracking. Wonderful woman, especially her book, Joy Beyond Grief. And
yes.
Tapping is something that can just really take you to the next level and make you understand what's going on, what's coming up in your body.
Yes.
What the triggers are.
Yes. And with whatever. So specialist areas, definitely. Matrix re-imprinting is another one that we share a love for, which is an extension of EFT. And then just more recently, I've become a trainer and a mentor as well. So
amazing. Absolutely amazing. So you mentioned their matrix re-imprint, which I haven't really covered on this podcast because I really like to give people free techniques that they can do. And I believe matrix, you really do need a practitioner for. Whereas EFT, in your tool bag, you've got it, it's free.
Yes.
Once you've learned how to do it, it's free. You just tap whenever you need it. It's quite extraordinary. I just love it. You've kind of created your own program, though, haven't you, a little bit? Because we were talking earlier over lunch about the movie technique, which I haven't really spoken about on this show. And you've got a combination of EFT, movie technique, and you incorporate some matrix in that as well?
Yes, I suppose as time goes on, you have the way to do it, and then we kind of adapt our own ways into things. There are lots of techniques in EFT which are really effective that move away from that basic recipe. I think if we're talking about the self-help tools, it's my aim, if a client comes to see me, it's my aim by the end of that first session that they have a solid self-help tool to take away, and they tend to tap every day. I keep in touch with them. I did a training course a couple of weekends ago, which was a one-day workshop. And those on the workshop, we've got a little WhatsApp group now going, and we just all put our thumbs up when we've done our tapping for the day. So it's really getting into people's systems, isn't it? It's getting it into their system, so it's their go-to thing for when they're feeling a little bit low, when something's upset them. And how wonderful is it when children start doing that as well? And I've
never been able to get my children to tap. They won't just bloody well won't do it.
Oh, really?
I once got Tali to tap because she'd had her wisdom tooth out and it had gone septic. And we were actually driving down to Devon because I wanted to meet Guy Singh Watson at Riverford Farm and ask him on the podcast. And she was saying, I can't, I need to be in bed, I'm in agony. The traffic was at a standstill, and we were just sitting there and she was kind of crying. And there were no painkillers, obviously, in my car. So I said, well, you're just going to have to tap, darling, aren't you? And she said, oh, I'll do anything, Mama. And then, after about half an hour, she went, oh, it's gone. I went, yeah. It did come back again because she was thinking about it. And
pain is persistent. It's probably been building up for quite a long time. So when it comes to pain, I think you do have to be persistent with it. But yes, it can definitely dial down that intensity. And this is the thing, Philly, you can use it for physical. Although it's called emotional freedom technique, it's actually could work really, really well for physical things as well.
Are you sick and tired of feeling sick and tired? Are you lost and lonely on your way to wellness? Do you like a nice cup of herbal tea? Then come and join me in my community. For £11.11 a month, you can come and join me on a Zoom. You'll have access to my work, my 2 books and my video series. And also we'll be in a WhatsApp group together so that we can keep each other motivated and guide each other on our way to wellness. And as a special bonus, I will throw in my herbal tea tutorial. You will also get my meditation album, The Wellness Awakening, From Past Lives to Passing, because every month we're going to do some breath work and meditation together. Head over to phillyjlay.com for all details. And remember, the doctor of your future is you.
Yeah, it looks like a miracle when that happens. I had somebody just recently who hadn't been able to go to work for 5 years because their back had been so bad, so chronically bad. And when we started chasing the pain, we start in and we really tune in. This is the difference with EFT, is that we're really acknowledging what the issue is, whether that be an emotional thing, emotional upset, something that's really bothering you, whatever it is, or whether it's a physical one, and you really, really tune into the somatics of that. You give it an intensity so that you can see whereabouts it is on a scale of 0 to 10, and so that you've got something to measure it by when you're doing your tapping, but also tuning in, whereabouts in your body do you feel it? What shape, what size? If it had a colour, what colour would it be? Does it have a temperature? All these kind of things that really makes you tune in and then you start tapping and you look with interest. And very often what I love with chasing the pain is that very often the pain moves to a completely different part of the body.
Yeah.
So someone will say, well, actually, it's not there anymore. It's gone somewhere else. And you're just following, chasing that pain, and then suddenly realizing that there's maybe there's a bit of an emotional attachment there. You know, when did it come? How long have you had it? You know, what's stored into that pain? Where are the links? And we had, with this lady, we had the most amazing, she had the most amazing realizations. They're just saying, oh my goodness, I've been inviting this pain in. I've been praising this pain. I've been thanking this pain for being there because it saved me from ... And she walked out without it, and she hasn't had it come back again.
It's amazing when you hear tales like this, you know, because there are so many of them.
Yes.
And it is just miraculous to see. I mean, my first experience, you know, of chasing the pain, I just couldn't believe it. It was just shooting all over my body. I'd been on the floor crying for an ambulance 10 minutes earlier. And you know, because I thought I was going to die. I thought someone was stabbing me and I was having a heart attack. And I just, I chased the pain and it just went away. And this kind of, I was very tired that night. I was very cold as well, very cold and very tired. And I felt incredibly light, as if this whole mass of trauma had left my body. And so much stuff came up that you just can't imagine, you know, that you wouldn't think in any shape or form would affect your energy levels. But, you know, in that session, it even came up how inadequate I felt at the school gates with, you know, picking my children up from school with all these kind of very posh West London mums, that I just felt inadequate and short and fat and ugly. And I'm just like, fuck, where's this come from? And it just releases everything, doesn't it?
Yes, and people say, I don't know why I'm thinking of this, but I've just got this memory in here that's just no such thing as a coincidence. And that's the thing as well. It can be really life-changing, can't it? It can be so life-changing. And I know that EFT, as well as over the years now, 22 plus years, I've helped thousands of people of all ages, all backgrounds, all professions, whatever it is, that they come to you with, helping them find that freedom from whatever is holding them back from getting what they deserve out of life and being their best selves. And so often people say, gosh, how life-changing that is. And then I've had my own personal experiences as well of totally turning your life around. It can just totally turn your life around, and very quickly. This is the wonderful thing about it. You don't need endless sessions of talking. It's really just there, tuning in, listening to what your body's saying, listening to what your emotions are saying, chasing back. When else have you felt that? And bang, 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 right the way back to maybe where it started. We often say the first memory, the first or the worst.
And as you go down through the SUDS levels, so that's from 0 to 10, 0 being nothing, 10 being
the
mega.
most intense.
So, but as you're going down those SUD levels and you're bringing them down, very often a memory will come up. So if you're tuning in, you're level 3, you get a memory of when you were 3 years old.
Yes.
And with Matrix, we invite the echo to go and talk to the 3-year-old, show the 3-year-old what's going on, but keep them safe. And this is one of the things I love with this technique. And Matrix, it's all about keeping the client safe, isn't it?
Yes. And resourcing the client, so the client is going back to help that younger them, that little echo, that energetic conscious hologram. Who better to do that? You know, this is what I love about Matrix, because you can describe to a therapist for hours on end, 100 hours, exactly what happened and who was doing what and where was where and how everyone was feeling, but no one really knows, not even after 100 hours, how that person was really, really thinking and feeling. So the client is the best person to go and help their younger selves. They know exactly how that younger self was thinking and feeling on that day and what beliefs were taken on board. So I had a little. It was a major. It was the biggest thing that's ever happened to me. Experience. I had a massive phobia, and I know a lot of us in EFT or other therapies as well take on a therapy when we've had such a complete transformation ourselves, and can see just how much freedom it can give you that's to be had on the other side. In fact, my own company is called Free From Fears. And I had a really big phobia, massive phobia of anything medical. Anything medical.
Well, I kind of say that's a good thing.
Well.
If you're going to have any phobia, that's the one I'd have.
Well, it went down to childbirth as well. So having babies, being pregnant, everything like that. I lumped it all under the same thing. And I added my own F to the fight, flight, freeze that we're always talking about, that fight, flight, freeze response. So I actually used to just faint. So somewhere my survival mechanism was there saying, well, hey, if you're going to get eaten by that saber-toothed tiger, let's just pass out. Let's just be unconscious, so at least you don't know about it.
Well,
So
great concept. How clever is the body?
Yeah, but not the
this.
nicest of things happening. And it happened as long as I could remember. And I was that person that couldn't even get through hospital doors without passing out at the hospital doors. And that was just visiting people. It was that intense.
Bad.
It was really that intense. So it really, as everyone with a phobia knows, it's always lurking in the background. Gosh, when's a trigger going to happen? And I managed to move through the childbirth fear. It's why I didn't have my son till I was 40 as well, because it took quite a long time to move through that enough to separate that out and say, no, this is a natural thing. I did a little past life regression, which helped, and also persuading my doctor, which took a bit of persuading, to have him at home, to have my baby at home, helped very much so as well. So I thought I'd cracked it until a few years later I had to go into hospital for something or another, go and visit somebody, and I passed out at those doors again. And I was so desperately disappointed. And the worst thing is that my mother was coming up for a triple heart bypass.
Oh my God, so you had to go to the hospital.
I had to go to the hospital. My bigger sister and myself, I'm the youngest of three, were the only ones that could look after her. So, and my mother is a self-confessed wimp and needs lots of help when she's in these situations. So the pressure was on, and I happened to be at a training, matrix re-imprinting training, just before I was having to go down and see her at Derriford Hospital in Plymouth. And so I decided to work on this thing. And there I was, tuning into this fear that I had, tuning into how it's always made me feel, just that whole phobia side. It makes me lose my voice when I'm there, and just tuning in. And then, when else have you felt this before? The first or the worst? And bang, there I was, age 4, at the zoo. I was in a pushchair. My sisters were there and some other friends were there, and my middle sister was allowed to push the pushchair. And she was pushing me in this pushchair until we got to this hill, and then she let go of it. And it went hurtling down the hill with me in it. And I can see as clear as day this big brick wall looming up towards me. And I put my feet up to stop myself. And the next thing I knew, I'd woken up in this hospital with all these people bearing down on me with their masks on, and my mother in the background freaking out. So what do you think? That little 4-year-old, what do you think the belief that then went into her was like, wow, this is not a safe environment. This is not a safe place. These people, this smell, this look, this everything is just not a safe place. Just don't ever come here again.
And it's freaking my mum out.
And it's freaked my mum out. Look, she's my main carer. If it's freaking her out, then this really, really can't be safe. So I'm just giving this example because it makes it perfectly clear why then every single time afterwards there was a slight whiff of medical anything, and my whole self, my whole energy system is going into this complete keep away, whatever you do, bless it, trying to protect me.
Exactly.
Yes.
I mean, really, it does know what to do and how to look after you.
Yes.
Extraordinary.
Yes. But of course, as the years go by, it isn't serving you well. So it might have been the decision that little 3 or 4-year-old made that day, that this is really not safe anymore. But when you're in your 20s or your 30s or your 40s and you're still passing out at hospitals,
It's not good.
It's really not serving you well anymore. So.
No. Tell me, did you have any recollection of that accident before you had the Matrix?
No.
None
No.
at all?
No. But then as soon as that memory came back, it was as clear as day. I could even see what shoes I had on. It was that clear.
And nobody had ever spoken about it in your family?
As far as I know, I can't ever remember us speaking about that one.
Your sister never apologised and went, oh, sorry, Wendy, about that day I nearly killed you?
Have you met her? No. No, the ones that were quoted were always when we were sitting around the table with a treat, watching a cowboy and Indian film while we ate our fish finger sandwiches, and a cowboy had an arrow, into his
shoulder.
arm, and blood spurted out, and I passed out the table. That's the one that was always brought up in the family stories. So, yeah.
Gosh, nothing
Yes.
about nearly killing you.
No. Funny that.
Wow, what an experience.
Yes.
What an experience. And it does unleash so many memories that, I've had memories that, I've talked about too often on this show, but just you go, oh my God, how was that ever blocked out of my mind? Well, the body is unbelievably clever, and I believe it blocks it out to protect you.
Yes.
It will be stored in your body somewhere, and that will then turn, or can possibly turn, to dis-ease. And that's where dis-ease comes from, when we're not happy, when we've got trauma held in our
Yes.
body. And, I do think this is singularly the best technique for getting that out. I mentioned the movie technique. Run us through what the movie technique is, because this is a great technique.
Right. Well, if you were doing the movie technique, then you would separate yourself as yourself in the here and the now, and be able to see that memory just as though you're watching it, as though a movie is going on in front of you. And you would perhaps give a title to that movie. You might give an intensity to that movie. What might the intensity be? It's a difficult one to talk about on this, because it's quite complicated and complex in terms of depending how safe your client feels. Sometimes you have to put in lots of safety factors to start with. It might be very scary to go into that movie. So it's a very gentle technique. It's a very gentle technique to release that trauma. And as the client is then being able to have a little look at that movie, they would go through that first scene. They would start at the beginning, and they would move through until they feel an emotional crescendo somewhere. And then you'd press a pause on that movie. And at that moment, you would tap through until the intensity had reduced down. And then you would go back to the beginning and play it again and see whether you could bypass that part of the movie then. So you'd carry on, if you've managed to bypass it, carry on until there's another emotional intensity, an emotional crescendo. And again, pause the movie and just tap on all of the feelings that have come up at that moment around that memory of that part of the movie. And you carry on doing that, rewinding, going forward, backwards and forwards, until you can play the whole movie all the way through. And people say, well, I can still see exactly what happens, but there's just no emotional intensity around it anymore. And then we try and get them to replay the whole movie, really exaggerating everything within it and exaggerating any feelings, just to test it all out and see how well we've done, see whether there's anything else to remove or not. But it literally just takes all the negative, limiting emotions out of that particular memory that's come up for them.
I love that. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And as you say, incredibly gentle technique. I want to come on to 2020 now. It was a year that was, we know what happened in the world, but for me, it was a phenomenal year with the EFT community coming together every night at 7 o'clock online, and somebody doing those 10-minute tapping sessions all the way through the lockdowns.
We did the tapathon, it
The
was called, wasn't
tapathon,
it?
that's
Yes.
right. And oh my goodness, so many brilliant people, so many brilliant techniques. Doing heart-to-heart meditations with Renee, and just it was for me absolutely magical. But you took this to a whole nother level, and out of this trauma in 2020 that happened to the whole world, you started, I'm going to call it a charity in case people don't know what a kick is, or do you want to explain what a kick is?
A community interest company, CIC, community interest company. It's not quite a charity. There's a little bit more freedom within what you do there, but it's a way of just being, as it says on the tin, it's a community interest company. So.
And you took EFT out to the masses of, you started in hospitals with doctors and nurses. You're called the FAST charity. Can you give us the meaning of FAST?
Right, well, FAST stands for Frontline Assistant for Stress and Trauma. And FAST was something that, it was another of those no-brainers, Philly. It was a no-brainer, absolute no-brainer. I found myself in the very early stages of that first lockdown, do you remember, March 2020, online with a nurse, senior nurse, who had been transferred from her ward into a COVID ICU ward in Birmingham. It was actually the hospital that was on television all the time. And her family had asked if I'd help her. And she was so traumatised that there she was, just not able to even speak. She was breathing, her breathing was terrible. And I just had an hour with her. She couldn't really say anything except to indicate that her 0 to 10 in intensity was off the scale. And I just started tapping gently like this, just saying, even though I'm completely overwhelmed, right here, right now, I'm safe. And I just kept repeating that, tapping through the points, inviting her to mirror me if she wanted to. She'd never done any tapping before. And after about a minute, her breathing started regulating. I could see she was coming out of that freeze response. And then 2 or 3 minutes later, she started talking very emotionally about what was going on, about how usually in the ICU ward you have 2 nurses to every patient, but they had 5 patients to 1 nurse, and you almost had to decide who to keep alive. And then you had all these juniors all PP'd up to the hilt, shouting and barking orders at everyone else, uninformed choices people were making. There was a lot of anger, there was a lot of frustration, there was a lot of panic going on around these wards, and all this was suddenly coming out from this girl. And then there was the fear, what if I catch it? What if I take it home? What if I give it to my family? What if I die? What's going to happen to my children? And all this was coming out just as we were sitting there just tapping together. The key being that we carried on tapping. We carried on tapping, and I saw the intensity of all of these things coming down and just releasing all of these different emotions until it calmed down, and I could see she took a deep breath. And it's when we reduce that intensity and we calm it all down and bring that intensity down that those choices start coming back into play. We realise that we have a choice. And she just said, do you know, I can do this. I can do this. This is what I do. This is what I'm meant to do. I can go back to work on Monday. Yeah, I can go back to work on Monday. And it was just short of an hour.
Gosh.
The difference that made, she didn't need another session. And she sent lots of her colleagues to me. So I had quite a lot of nurses coming at that time. And I realised, along with the ones closer to home, I live in Cornwall, as you mentioned, and the hospitals down there was a lot of anticipatory fear. Of course, it hadn't come down to Cornwall at that stage, but everyone was all geared up to that. They were petrified. People were going off work left, right and centre, dealing with that as well. And I realised that there was this huge need because there was a pandemic, and not the virus, not talking viruses here, we're talking mental health pandemic. And that was the worst thing for me that's come out of COVID. The mental health pandemic that was exacerbated the mental health levels, because we a lot of people have forgotten, but we were in a mental health crisis before COVID had started. So it just exacerbated it. And I just knew that something bigger had to happen. So I ran a pilot as quickly as possible to sort of like maximize the best way to get the quickest amount of help in the most effective way, and created a structure, put a call out to the online EFT community, inundated by EFT practitioners wanting to come and help, which was just so wonderful. And we had to make sure that they were advanced trained and trauma informed, because some of the things that we were hearing were very big traumas, very big trauma. We couldn't risk anyone that wouldn't know how to handle that properly. And within a month, we were up and running.
It was quite extraordinary, the speed at
Yes.
which you did it, and the people that came in. I mean, I was just in awe of you.
It had to be. It was an emergency response
It
to an
was.
emergency situation. There wasn't any hanging around. We couldn't faff here and faff there. It was just like now. And can I just say, Philly, that all of the people that we were helping started off with the NHS health workers. We had to sidestep away from that and move or add in emergency services and whatever. But all the people that we're helping are supporters. They are supporters. They don't ever ask for support. They're the supporters. That's their vocation, is to support others. So as one fireman said to me, he said that when you realise you need help, you need it now, not in 10 months' time. You have to have it now. When you know you need the support, you're admitting you need support, you're asking for support, it's got to be immediate. Yeah. And that was what we were doing with FAST. We became FAST by name, FAST by nature.
Yes, you did. Very much so. You know, you were talking there about firemen. You know, I've had Andy Steele on the show, and we're going to come to Andy and something that we have coming up very shortly, only in a couple of weeks. So we're going to talk about that in a bit. But, you know, they go through a tremendous amount of trauma. But this whole, you know, we're nearly at 5 years since that first lockdown. And
shocking.
The absolute fear and trauma that the world was plunged into for something that the average age of death was 82 or something, or 89. The average living age isn't as old as that. I met somebody whose wife was pregnant during that lockdown. And she was so terrified that he touched a tree once as they were walking past a tree, and she started screaming that he could get COVID off the tree.
Oh, it was terrible.
It is so sad what they did to humanity in this period of time.
Absolutely. Well, it was fear. It was fear-based, and it was... You can imagine what it was like for the frontline workers. Yeah. This is why we wanted to help them so much. All the help that we were giving, there was a lot of moral support, wasn't there? We all clapped outside at 6 o'clock on a Thursday, or went outside and clapped our hands. And that's what I wanted to do more of. I knew that we could do more. And all our volunteer team of wonderful, wonderful, wonderful helpers, I'm so grateful and in awe of them to this day. We wanted to do something more than clap. So, well, in actual fact, instead of clapping, we were tapping.
Tap,
so,
yes.
Tap. But and they were all willing to, as I was, to gift our skills into knowing the difference that we could make in these situations, the effective difference we could make. And talking about the FAST bit, how we worked was that anyone that came on to ask for our help through our website, within 24 hours. Usually a lot less than that. It was usually 12, sometimes 6, sometimes 3. I was checking online every single day, 2 or 3 times a day. They would not only have a response from us, but they would be matched with a practitioner and have their first appointment set according to something that would fit into their timetable. At the earliest convenience, and they had up to 4 sessions free, because, as I say, with the nurse, the original nurse, she didn't need another session. Some people were going back to work after 2 sessions even that had been long-term sick. So we were getting these phenomenal results. I was recording all the results, partly because of Kaizen, my Kaizen me, just to look to see whether we could do anything better, whether anything needed to be adapted, whether we needed to evolve anything, but also so that we would have solid results there. If for any organisations that wanted to see them, wanted to take us on perhaps. So we recorded everything. And
yet you didn't have any success with this recording. I know you went to your council, didn't you, to look for charity funding or at some point, or we talked about this. It's a while ago now. We spoke about it, and you were looking at getting the research,
lottery funding, right. Yes, and various other ones. It was very difficult because a lot of the places we approached said, well, they should have that kind of help already within the police constabularies, within the hospitals. And it's, well, yes, but they don't.
But they don't.
And it was quite difficult to get in. People might not know, but EFT is a fantastic cutting edge technique, but it's not on the NICE register yet. So because it's not...
Just explain what NICE is so that everybody knows.
NICE is the golden standard for for NHS treatments, and it takes about 10 years to become NICE registered, and then once you're NICE registered, the NHS can refer to you. So for example, cognitive behavioural therapy is NICE registered, which is why most of the mental health support is cognitive behavioural therapy based. And that was a block along the way. It kept coming up, to our disadvantage there, which was very disheartening. We bypassed that. I started working with lots of different organisations to try and get on board so that it would ease just working with our online presence there. But very hard to get in there. I would get so close to the top, those rungs of the ladder, or the pyramid, but the rungs that then got narrower and narrower. I'd get right up to the very, very last rung, and then suddenly they'd say, oh, well, actually, that top rung have said that we're just going to stick with what we've got. We're just going to carry on with what we've got.
Which they know isn't working.
Which they know isn't working, yeah, but unfortunately, it's a lot of faff to change it. So disappointment after disappointment with an ambulance service. I'm not going to mention any names or areas, police constabulary, air ambulance, even with a foundation that worked very closely with the blue light sector. And it wasn't just because of NICE registered. They had internal problems, or they had systems in place, or the senior leadership team weren't very open for change. We've had lots of challenges along the way, but that's who FAST were. We were responders, and all the people, as I say, we've helped hundreds and hundreds. And the feedback, because along with the statistical data that we took in, we asked for testimonials as well, those who were willing to share the testimonials, and they made it all worthwhile. They were so lovely. And the number of times we had that word life-changing used. And honestly, that makes me well up, because life-saving often came up as well. We had one not so long ago that said, if you hadn't answered when you did, I wouldn't be here now. And he had also put out appeals to a couple of other organisations, well-known organisations, and hadn't even heard back from them.
Oh, wow.
And some people who had registered with, we had another one just literally last week, got the feedback from their organised, it was the NHS, couldn't offer any help. So this was about a sudden bereavement that had been very tricky for this person to carry on working. And so Cruise said, yes, we can help you, but we've got a 6-month waiting list. So the fact that we were able to just go straight in there,
no, I know you did.
Offer our help straight off.
I know you did. It was quite remarkable.
we're going to be working together for the first time,
are.
which I'm very excited about. And it's coming up in just over 2 weeks.
Yes.
You are doing something that has been lacking in this community for a very long time. Don't forget the last 5 years, everything kind of moved online. But you're bringing the EFT community back together. And a couple of names popped up there, Janice Thompson, Andy Steele, you, me. Can you tell everybody what you have got planned coming up in Somerset? Give us all the details.
It's created by another FAST team member, Morica, and myself. It came out because Morica and I were very much setting up presentations and stalls that we managed to blag free stalls at the NEC for the last 3 years at the emergency services shows, where I would go and make a presentation on the health and wellbeing stage, and we had a stall with other FAST practitioners getting out there with the emergency services. And when it was coming up to the 4th time, very successful, wonderful, and a fantastic chance to meet up with the other FAST practitioners who were dotted around the UK. Even abroad, we had somebody in Dubai. We've still got somebody in Dubai, Rachel, and Gayleen in New Zealand. We've got Silky in Germany, so that we could do out of hours as well. And this was a chance for team members to come together. So it was absolutely wonderful. But this year we decided to do something different, and we wanted to do it for the EFT community, because it's a long time since we had the chance to all meet together. And we've heard time and time again how people can feel a little bit isolated and a little bit alone as a practitioner, not just EFT practitioners, anyone working in this field, really, you can feel a little bit isolated, and how wonderful it is. There's nothing quite like the community of like-minded people, passionate about what they do, all coming together and having a weekend of learning and growing and evolving, adding skills onto our own existing ones to help with our clients. And that's what this weekend coming up is all about.
I know, it's fantastic. Now, it is for the EFT community, but it's also for anybody that's got an interest and wants to know about tapping and all. I'm doing a combination of tapping with breath work, because those are my 2 modalities which I've kind of merged together, so I'm very excited about doing that. But anybody that just kind of goes, I'd really like to know what this is about, I'd like to come along. Yes. and see if it's maybe my vocation. And you mentioned right back at the beginning, how you were sitting on a beach with your baby, kind of going, I don't want to travel the world. Well, there are a lot of people that don't want to travel the world. And there are a lot of people that want to get out of the corporate rat race. And this could be, it's something that if you've just got even a tiny weeny smidgen of interest in finding something kind of more natural to, I hate using the word alternative, because,
it's not alternative. It's complementary.
I don't like complementary.
I don't like that one either.
Oh, no. It's like, no. We can do this on our own. We don't need to compliment you. But anybody that kind of goes, I'd quite fancy coming along and meeting this community and seeing what it's about.
Well, there's going to be a warm welcome for everyone that comes along,
Yep.
Whoever you are, wherever you're coming from. I think as well, we mentioned at the beginning about how one of the great things about EFT is it's a wonderful self-help tool, and you can use it, again, with your family, as your friends. You don't have to be a practitioner going into it as a career or anything like that. It's just coming along and just being in this energy and this fun and this so transformative. And there are going to be talks about all sorts of things. So you're quite right. You're mixing up EFT with breath work. I'm going to be talking about the emergency service a little bit and things that I've learned and tips that I can pass on. And I think that's what the speakers are going to do. We've got a lovely array. We've got beautiful Judy coming in to talk about her work with children. She's doing something called the picture tapping technique, working with Lego or Play-Doh or drawing pictures, and how that really helps children get very fast releases from any worries or concerns or overwhelms that they
Amazing.
have. We have got a lot going on in that.
I remember learning in one of the courses that I did, learning to tap on a teddy bear for children.
Yes.
So just, if
Absolutely.
they have their toy
Wonderful.
and they can tap on, because it doesn't matter if you tap on yourself or you tap on somebody else or you tap on yourself to work on somebody else and you don't even touch them. It just, it works. It transcends, doesn't it?
Yes. Surrogate tapping is absolutely fantastic. You can do it with animals as well.
Yeah.
You do it with everyone.
And babies.
And babies. Gary Craig, who is the founder of EFT, said, try it on everything. Everything, everyone, give it a go. Give it a go. And so this weekend can be for energy psychology people interested in any modality around that, EFT practitioners, those interested to have a little just look into what it's all about. And we'd love to see everyone there. It is really going to be a very, very special weekend.
It is. I am so excited. Please tell our audience where they can get tickets. And I know that you have given my audience a very special discount. Thank you for coming on the show.
I have indeed. So we have a Facebook page, and I think the details are going to be around a Facebook page for the EFT Community and Learning Weekend. It's going to be the 15th and 16th of March. That's Saturday and a Sunday.
So it's just a couple of weeks. So
it is just a couple of weeks. So you do need to grab these tickets now. We've got them on special offer, as Philly said. If you go onto that page, you'll just get all the information you need about the weekend. It's in a beautiful, beautiful community hall called Castle Carey Community Centre. Castleford, I think it's called, community centre in Castle Carey, which we've chosen because it's a nice kind of like central point for everyone to get to, sort of like equidistancy for a lot of people. I come from Cornwall near Land's End, so I'm always used to travelling great long distances. And Morica, who I mentioned is creating this with me, she comes from the sticks up near York, so she's always used to travelling a long distance as well. So we hope everyone else will also agree to travel to this venue. It's on a train line, so that was another reason we got it there.
It's on train lines from everywhere, isn't it?
Yeah, train lines coming from London, direct train from Paddington. We start at 11 o'clock on Saturday morning, so it gives people plenty of time to get that first train, and we can come and pick people up from the station.
You said there were no coincidences, but virtually all the trains arrive at 10:15, don't they?
I think so. Yes. I was looking into it.
And I was just like,
so some people might have to have an early start, but then hey, I came up here to be with Philly today, and I had a very early start to come along and speak to you today.
It's just worth it to get back to being with people. We have become so isolated since 2020. And so much stuff has remained online. So many people are spending, not necessarily all of their week, but, some of their week going, I'll work from home today, I'll work remotely. And we are human beings, and we're meant to be together. We're meant to be with our tribe and our pack. And I really believe that, any just listening to this, if there's any tiny little bit of you, I'll tell you what. So this is going out Thursday, and we've only got a couple of days left till the end of the month. But you can still join my community. And this month, the month of February, is a tapping. So if you want to know a little bit more about tapping there, you can still join my community. You'll get the Zoom, you'll get the pack, all the tapping points and everything. We haven't really covered the tapping points in this show today because we have covered them a lot in other shows. And it's not, the thing that I found most extraordinary when I trained was we're given this order called the sequence, but actually you can do it in any sequence you like. It will still work. The American sequence, tapping solution, they start between the eyes, whereas we start on the top of the head. It works, it's,
yes,
you can
it's
just
very
have
forgiving.
Very, very forgiving. So we will put the details up for that in the show notes. I'm going to have it up on my webpage. So Wendy has kindly given you a voucher, the Wellness Way 99, so you can get your ticket for the whole weekend. That's all the practitioners, all the talks, all the community for £99, which I think is an absolute steal. Wendy, thank you so much for coming on the show today. It has been a joy. I hope you're going to come back again, because I know this is a world that is moving so fast as people understand more and more and more how they can protect their own health, how they can change their own health.
Yes, all the answers are inside us. As we say sometimes, the body's talking. Are we listening? And if we listen and we respond to that, then we can pick up on all the clues and do something about it. And tapping is one of the best ways I have ever found to get that regulation, get that ease going back into the body.
Lovely. It absolutely is. Because by now, lovely people, you know, the doctor of your future is you. Wendy, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's been such a pleasure.